Good morning. How are you? It's a gorgeous day today. It's cold, but the sun on my back feels really good, and I've got kind of a heavy coat on. Emerson spoke about how we find ourselves when we travel with nature, and that nature is a metaphor and a symbol and an emblem for who we really are. Removed from the cities and so forth. It doesn't mean you can't have the feeling in the cities, but he was talking about what's really important. And he was not alien to physics. Even back when he was writing in Concord and influencing Thoreau, he was talking about physics. And he used it as examples of the connection between man and woman and nature, although I don't think he ever mentioned women. The key to the baseline to some of his thinking was that there are two things that are really important that come out of nature, of communing with it, of respecting it. And they are truth and virtue. And how important that is today when I think this election was about that same thing. Despite misinformation, disinformation, and fraud, still 5 million people more than those who don't care about those things, in my opinion, prevailed against all sorts of odds of corruption. And that's important. The virtues we talk about are things like culture and selflessness and service and law and truth. All these things, all these ideas, all come into one. And they've all suffered because for many, particularly among the Republicans, the ends justify the means. So in recent days, we have seen lawyers go into court knowing better, trying to encourage a court to do something based on false information. The fact that they may have coordinated suggests to me a conspiracy. But what happened? We have judges who looked at the facts, who forced answers to questions that were legitimate and germane, and found out there was no there there. There was nothing to these claims. And that's what we're getting rid of in America. These liars, these people who don't care about our democracy, who only care to be in power. And you know, Emerson had a whole secondary level of things that he thought were not germane. They were your vanity, power, wealth. These things came up second to truth and virtue. We have Trump, who's basically lost in the courts. He lost days ago, we all know that. But in terms of the ongoing fight, these frivolous public statements to confound our democracy persist. But they are ebbing significantly. And he's been told that his electoral college story is not going to work because they can't get people to protest untruths. They can't get people to defy the voters' will. They can't get around state statutes that require that you vote as the public did. And they can't get some other people to distort those rules in states where there are Republicans who would do it. All of this is good. The election is finally over, and the ouster of the orange menace in the West Wing is just a question of days. But in the meantime, we have Trump withholding information from the transition team of Biden. And what's that about? Well, you know, on the one hand, it could be pique and his sulking. On the other hand, is he doesn't want truth known by Biden for what Trump has failed to do. So we have this terrible situation. And I say terrible, but this is a different place than where we were even a month ago. We're in a place where the citizens are asserting themselves. They did at the ballot box, and probably one of the most perfect elections there ever was, because we had so much warning that the Postmaster General was corrupt and the election would be corrupt, that we had accommodations by the people, voting early, by the legislatures changing the rules. It was actually quite encouraging and a good example of virtue in America returning. But I saw a speech yesterday that was given by Alito. When I say I saw it, I read the text of it. And Alito is saying that the pandemic has deprived us of our individual rights and liberties. Now, he's missing a couple of steps here. But unlike Emerson, he, in the Federalist Society, does not respect science. That it is not that we have a constitutional right that's been abridged by the government. We have Gaia, God, whatever you want to say, who by nature is confounding us with a pandemic. And the answer is, how do we preserve ourselves against this natural enemy, this pandemic? And his answer is to contravene science and to wear a mask, to gather in groups too large in churches because he sees this as an abridgment of religious freedom. And on, ridiculous syllogisms that are not deserving of a poor college student in a logic class. So we have to be we are on notice that the Federalists do not believe in truth. They do not believe in virtue. And it's not a defense. If they could be so dull with high IQs to the significance of what they're saying that misleads those who would listen to the Federalists, and that's who's going on the bench. So what we see in the days ahead is a shifting fight toward the substance of what we need to do in this government, perhaps with a very narrow or a deficit margin in the Senate. And it is in every way we can, by executive orders, by appointments to the cabinet, at the state level, in local elections 2 years from now, to take this as a foothold in the war to make our nation based on truth and virtue, as it was conceived, as it has failed from time to time, particularly during the Trump administration of late, so that going forward, we leave a legacy to those unborn, to our own children, to people who may not even appreciate what we've done, but they'll need to if they want to make truth and virtue the important parts of our nation's future. So, have a good day. Get out. I rumbled on a little bit. I hope it was interesting. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.